Welcome to the Forensic Financialist, where we simplify everything and choose the road that leads to wisdom and excellence. We discuss tough issues facing small business and figure out easy-to-implement solutions. Using the REAR approach, we look in the rear view to move forward towards a brighter future. Here's your host, Jeff Newkirk.
Welcome to the Forensic Financialist, where we aim to improve your business and help you grow both personally and professionally. I'm your host, Jeff Newkirk. Today we're going to jump right into understanding what the REARview Mirror approach really means. And we'll spend most of our time today understanding the first R in the word REAR. But before I get started, I think it's always important to do a perspective check. What I mean by this is, let's remember the big picture, reflect on why we do what we do, and how fortunate we really are. To help emphasize this point, I want to describe for you a young man that I learned about some time ago. He started a small business. It was a restaurant, and it was a lifelong dream of his. Mr. Tim Harris founded this restaurant in 2010 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It received positive reviews on Yelp, and by all intents and purposes was solvent. So what's the big deal? I mean, there are lots of restaurants that get positive reviews on Yelp and that are solvent. Well, people told Tim that it was impossible for him to own a restaurant, that he should never try to start his own business. But he proved them wrong. See, Tim Harris has Down syndrome. But to him, that was not a game stopper, only something that he had to deal with. So give that some thought. If you have a dream or a passion, go for it. And when people tell you that you can't do it, prove them wrong. Use someone else's negative energy as fuel for your success. Tim Harris did. And good for you, Tim Harris. Okay. Let's talk about the REARview Mirror approach to business assessment. We went through this a little bit last episode, but just as a gentle reminder, REAR is a friendly acronym that stands for Review, R, Step 1, Step 2, E, Examine, Step 3, A, Adjust, and Step 4, Revise and Realize. Funny how these kind of things just sort of come to you. I mean, I thought of this when I was speeding down Highway 67 through Missouri, past a state patrol, and I kept an eye on him in my rearview mirror. I looked back, examined my speedometer, and saw that I was exceeding the speed limit by far more than 10 miles over the speed limit, which is sort of my benchmark for speeding. So, I adjusted my speed going forward to change my outcome, which would include no speeding ticket. I thought, well, that's it. That's the simple approach. That's the simple approach to business assessment. But is this approach too simple? I don't think so. Now let's start talking about Step 1, Review. What does review mean? Well, simply, it means that we're going to look at how our business is performing. What is the current state of your business? And this can be from a financial perspective, an operating perspective, a resource perspective, etc. There are lots of different ways to look at a business. But what is the most critical? I mean, what is the one area that if it sinks, the business sinks? Well, it's got to be financial. You need to at least review the current state of your business's financial performance. As a business owner or leader, how do we know how the business is performing financially? What do we look at in order to know that? There are so many measures that can be reviewed, and it can be pretty overwhelming. So, how do you choose which measure to review? Here's my suggestion. As a business owner or leader, you need to look at least 3 key financial measures. at least 3 every period. And what I mean by period, it could be a month, a quarter, a year. Now, I would really recommend at least monthly, but certainly some look at it quarterly, but a year, that's a little too long. You really need to look at it monthly. That would be my overall suggestion. These measures will tell you to either sound an alarm or rest easy till the next period. Let's talk about these 3 measures and how you can find them. First, cash flow. Cash is king. Whether we like it or not, if you don't have cash, you're in trouble. You need to know how much cash you have on hand. Now, I'm not saying how many dollar bills you have in your wallet. I'm talking about your cash balance, the amount of cash you have in your bank accounts. If you use QuickBooks, for example, you can find your cash balance a couple of different ways. First, when you go into QuickBooks, look at your dashboard or your home page. This will show your bank accounts and the balance in each account. Now, you should have your bank accounts linked to your QuickBooks. This will make your life so much easier. When your accounts are linked, you don't have to worry about manual entry, and your balance is always current, or at least 99% of the time. Now, there are other accounting programs you can use other than QuickBooks, which is perfectly fine, but make sure that your program has at least 3 really important features. They should link to your bank account. They need to provide current balances with a reporting feature. And make sure it's easy to use. I mean, you don't want to have to sit through hours and hours of classes to figure out how to use your accounting software. So, when you see the balance in your business, in your checking account or savings account or investment accounts, this will give you an idea of your current cash balance. But let's look at 2 additional ways to review your cash balance. First, your statement of cash flows. This can be found in the reporting section of the main menu in QuickBooks. The statement of cash flows will tell you the cash balance at the end of the period. And period is defined by you. Like I said before, it could be month, it could be quarter, could be year, could be week. Depends on your business and how often you need to know. In retail, sometimes it's daily. But remember, the statement of cash flows provides inflows, meaning cash coming into your business, and outflows, the cash that's going out. You're paying the expenses. You're paying your bills. That's cash going out. And it's over a defined period of time. And you define that period of time. So you'll be able to see not only your cash balance, but all the cash-related transactions that led to your ending cash balance. Let's talk about another way to find your cash balance. Also in QuickBooks, and that's your balance sheet. You can find your balance sheet the same place as cash flow statement in QuickBooks. It's in the reporting section of the main menu. Now, remember that your balance sheet shows all of your assets, that's what you own, and all of your liabilities, that's what you owe people or other companies. And the difference between the two, that's equity. As part of your assets, you will see your cash on hand. That number represents all of the cash you have in your bank accounts, and it should match your statement of cash flows. So, let's summarize here. The first key measure to review to determine financial performance is your cash balance. How do you find it? 3 primary ways. Look at the current balance in each of your bank accounts. Look at the ending cash balance in your statement of cash flows. And look at the cash on hand line item in your balance sheet. All of these ways can be easily pulled from QuickBooks or any other reputable accounting software. Okay, on to the second key measure. The second one that I would recommend is profit and loss, the net income statement, and the net income, the bottom line in that statement. Why is this important? Well, you need to know how your business is performing with regard to revenues and expenses over the course of a predefined period, like a month, quarter, or year, as I've talked about before. Look at the bottom line first. That's the net income. Is it positive or is it negative? Well, hopefully it's positive. But if it's not, you need to know why. And we'll talk about that in the examination step in our next podcast. I've been asked, isn't cash balance the same as net income? No, it's not. You can have a net loss and still have a positive cash balance. A net loss will negatively impact your cash balance, but they are not equal. Cash helps you determine if you can pay your bills now. Net income tells you how your business is performing over a period of time, so you can pay your bills in the near future. A healthy net income should lead to growth in your cash balance. Okay, let's jump to the third measure. This is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. Wow, what does that mean? We're talking about something that's in the balance sheet, right? Well, in the simplest terms, it will tell you that if you have enough liquidity in your business to pay your current debts. So why is this important? Well, because you need to know how much liquidity you have. If sales dried up tomorrow and you had no sales at all, no revenue coming in, no cash inflows, do you have enough to pay off all of your current obligations? In financial accounting terms, this is called working capital. Banks love working capital. They love even more positive working capital. In fact, if your business has negative working capital, meaning that your current liabilities are greater than your current assets, so you owe more than you have on a current perspective, it's going to be pretty challenging for you to secure financing. So that's why it's important that you know what your working capital is. So how do you find it? Well, it's easy. Again, in the QuickBooks program, go to the Reports section on the main menu and go into the reports and you'll find balance sheet. It's a report that you can find within the report section on the main menu. And when you look in the balance sheet, look at current asset balance and current liabilities balance. Subtract current liabilities from current assets. That's your working capital. That's what you need to know. That's what banks will want to know, how much you have. And hopefully you have more current assets than you do current liabilities for positive working capital. Okay, we went through a lot today. Let's do a quick summary. First, cash balance. That's the first key measure that I think you really need to look at in the review step of the REARview Mirror approach to business assessment, cash balance. And you can find cash balance by looking at your current balance in your bank accounts, your ending balance in the statement of cash flows, and on the cash on hand line item in your balance sheet. The second key measure to look at in the review step is net income, which can be found by looking at your income statement or profit and loss statement. Those terms are interchangeable. Some call it income statement, some call it profit and loss, but it's the same thing. And we want that net income to be positive. The third key measure, working capital, which can be found in your balance sheet by subtracting current liabilities from current assets. We want this number to be positive as well. Okay, so there you have it. Those are the key measures to focus on in the review step of the REARview Mirror approach to business assessment. Next up, we're going to discuss what to do about it. It's one thing to know where you are, but it's another to know how and why you got there. And that's the examination step. Step 2. Hey, that's a wrap for today. I hope you got something out of today's podcast, at least one nugget. That's my goal. I'm so grateful that you listened, and I appreciate it so much. Now, make your today better than your yesterday, and make your tomorrow even better than your today. Peace, everyone.
You've been listening to The Forensic Financialist, where we simplify everything and choose the road that leads to wisdom and excellence. To learn more about Jeff, visit his website at pembusinessconsulting.com or email Jeff at jnewkirk@pembusinessconsulting.com. Mentioning this podcast will get you a complimentary discovery session with Jeff. Until next time.